Hello students, welcome. So today we are going to start our new unit 14, biomolecules. So basically, as the name suggests, we are going to discuss about some biological molecules which are present inside our body, or some of them are requirement by our body. So let us start with our introduction part. A living system grows, sustain and reproduce itself. The most amazing thing about the living system is that it is composed of non-living atoms and molecules. The pursuit of knowledge to what goes on chemically within in a living system falls in domain of biochemistry. Living systems are made up of various complex biomolecules like carbohydrate, proteins, nucleic acid, lipids, etc. Now some of them are familiar for us, and maybe biology students are well aware of these type of molecules. But if you are not a biology student, then still carbohydrates and proteins are familiar for most of us. Proteins and carbohydrates are essential constituent of our food. These biomolecules interact with each other and constitute the molecular logic in life process. In addition, some simple molecules like vitamins and mineral salts also play an important role in our function of organism. Structures and functions of some of these biomolecules are discussed in this unit, and our first category will be carbohydrates, and these type of molecules are in our dietary list. So we are generally familiar with these type of molecules. Carbohydrates, we regularly consume them in our diet system. Carbohydrates are primarily produced by plants and form a very large group of naturally occurring organic compounds. Very simple example is glucose and sucrose, that means our regular sugar, household sugar. Some common example of carbohydrates are cane sugar, glucose, starch, etc. Starch can be obtained from most of the grains and potatoes. So generally these type of molecules have general formula CxH2O. Why? So notice here we have water molecules here, and were considered as hydrates of carbon, from where the name carbohydrates was derived. Now as you can see here, in common formula of these molecules we have carbon and water molecules combined. So that's why initially they were considered as hydrated carbon. That means carbon which absorbs or reacts with water molecule and forms different type of molecules. That's why scientists named them as carbohydrates. For example, the molecular formula of glucose is C6H12O6 fits into this general formula C6 and H2O 6 times. But all of the compounds which fit into this formula may not be classified as carbohydrate, as for example acetic acid. You can notice we have two carbons and two H2O molecules if we rewrite them as C2H2O twice. So it is not carbohydrate, we know that it is acid. Similarly, rhamnose C6H12O5. It is a carbohydrate, but it do not have common formula of CxH2OY. If you check the formula, then we need either total 6 oxygens or we need 10 hydrogens to get total 5 H2O or 6 H2O, but it is not for this type of molecule. So a large number of their reactions have shown that they contain specific functional groups. Chemically, carbohydrates may be defined as optically active polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones, or compounds which produces such unit on hydrolysis. So let us step by step discuss the terms used in this statement. So first is optically active. So optical activity, that means when we dissolve this substance in suitable solvent, then by passing the plane polarized light. Now plane polarized lights have all the waves of light beams going in same direction. So our normal light sources have waves spreaded in different directions, but when we filter out them, then you will get plane polarized light. All of the beams or waves are going in same direction and they are in same plane. That's why it is called plane polarized light. So when we pass the plane polarized light from the solution of our compound, and if light direction changes, then compound is optically active, and if light direction do not change, then compound is optically inactive. So these type of carbohydrate compounds are optically active. And polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones, that means poly OH, multiple OH group containing aldehydic molecules or ketonic molecules, or the compounds which produce such unit on hydrolysis, that means when we carry out the reaction with water molecule, then they will produce aldehyde of or ketone if they are not initially. Some of the carbohydrates which are sweet in taste are also called sugars. As for example, shorter carbohydrates or smaller carbohydrate molecules are usually sweet in taste. As for example, glucose and sucrose. And as the chain grows or as the size of molecule increases, their sweetness decreases. As for example, starch. Starch contains multiple different bonded glucose molecules in it, but still we cannot taste it as a sweet, because when long chains are occurred, it loses its taste. Taste also depends on sizes and shapes, because our tongue contains different type of taste buds and different type of shaped molecules can fit on them, and if they fits, then we can taste them. If they do not fit on the taste buds, then you cannot taste it. The most common sugar used in our homes is named as sucrose, whereas the sugar present in milk is also is known as lactose. Now note here, sugar is also present in milk, but it is not sweet in taste. Carbohydrates are also called saccharides. Greek word saccharon means sugar. So from the Greek word we named them as saccharides. So either carbohydrates or saccharide word will be used. So carbohydrates are classified on the basis of their behavior on the hydrolysis. They have been broadly divided into following three groups. So here we are going to discuss about the classifications of carbohydrates. So as mentioned, this classification is based on behavior on hydrolysis. So first is monosaccharides. As mentioned, saccharide word is also used. A carbohydrate that cannot be hydrolyzed further to give simpler unit of polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone is called a monosaccharide. Now what it means? Now hydrolyzed, that means when these type of molecules reacts with water, it is called hydrolysis reaction. So when you have simple unit of, let us say, monomers, let us compare this situation with polymers. So when we have single monomer, then we cannot divide it further in simpler molecule, because it is the simplest form of the polymer. As for example, if you have polyethene, then it contains multiple monomeric unit of ethene. But when we have ethene, we cannot divide it into more simpler molecules. So same thing is going on here. Simplest of saccharides or carbohydrates are known as monosaccharide. We cannot further divide them, or we cannot obtain simpler compounds from them. About 20 monosaccharides are known to occur in the nature. Some common examples are glucose, fructose and ribose. Next is oligosaccharide. Now carbohydrates that yield 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. That means it is a bunch of 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. When we carry out the reaction with water, that means hydrolysis, they will split from each other to give simple monomers or simple saccharides, monosaccharides. As for example, let us take an example of polymer polyethene. Suppose we have 10 ethene molecules in a chain of polyethene. So when we divide it, you can obtain 10 ethene molecules. So same thing is going on here. We have 2 to 10 monosaccharides joined with together to create a comparatively larger sized saccharide or carbohydrate, which is known as oligosaccharides. So they are further classified as disaccharide if you have 2 monosaccharides, trisaccharide if you have 3, tetrasaccharides if you have 4, depending upon the number of monosaccharides they provide on hydrolysis. Among these, the most common are disaccharides, and our table sugar is disaccharide. It contains 2 different monosaccharide units. So when we hydrolyze them, you will get two different monosaccharides or two same monosaccharides depending on the type of molecule. For example, one molecule of sucrose on hydrolysis gives one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose, whereas maltose gives two molecules of glucose. That means maltose contains two glucose units joined together and sucrose contains one glucose, one fructose joined with each other. Next we have polysaccharides, so carbohydrate which yields larger number of monosaccharide unit just like polymers on the hydrolysis are called polysaccharides. Some common examples are starch, cellulose, glycogen, gums, etc. Polysaccharides are not sweet in taste, hence they are also called non-sugars. The carbohydrates may also be classified as either reducing or non-reducing sugars. All of those carbohydrates which reduces Fehling solution and Tollens reagents are referred to as reducing sugar, and all the monosaccharides whereas aldose or ketose are reducing sugars. Now we are going to discuss about the Fehling solution and the Tollens reagent in upcoming parts or chemical reaction section in detail. Okay, and these type of practicals are also in our practical books. So please learn it properly so in future you can understand better. Thank you.